The story of the Stuart begins at the deathbed of Elizabeth I on the 24th of March in 1603. Because of this, King James VI of Scotland became the King of England. The reign of the first Stuart began in peace and celebration, but the mood of unity did not last. The Catholic gunpowder plotters aimed to topple the Protestant regime of King James I by blowing up both king and parliament during the state on the 5th of November in 1605. James was a king of peace, but Charles had other ideas. After unsuccessfully attempting to woo the Spanish Princess Maria in 1623, he refashioned himself as a militant Protestant hero. But military disasters in the late 1920s taught him that warfare was more challenging than he imagined. Charles turned his back on Parliament during the decade of personal rule, also known as 11 Years' Tyranny. Charles had already dissolved 3 parliaments by the 3rd year of his reign in 1628. Soon there was a civil war between the Royalists, also known as Cavaliers, and the Parliamentarians, also known as Roundheads. On the 30th of January in 1649, Charles himself was executed. This made England a republic, which is a form of government under which the head of the state is not a monarch. Oliver Cromwell rose as a military leader in the English civil wars and consolidated his position through successful campaigns in Ireland and Scotland. In London, he dismissed the Trouble-Drum Parliament and accepted the role of Lord Protector in 1653. Cromwell transformed the church in favour of the Puritans and focused on moral reforms. The title of Lord Protector passed on to his son Richard Cromwell when Oliver died in 1658, but this was a disaster. Out of the ensuing political chaos, the idea of a restored monarchy gained hold. On his 30th birthday, Charles II arrived in London to huge acclaim. After the Great Fire destroyed much of London in 1666, grand new building projects transformed the capital. The creation of the Royal Society signaled a mood of innovation and improvement, and at the very heart of the new London was the Royal Exchange, where merchants traded goods from the Americas, India, and the Far East. But it wasn't all fun and games. In the Popish plot, Catholics were accused of planning to kill the king. And when Charles's brother and heir, James II, converted to Catholicism, the Whigs attempted to exclude him from the line of succession. They failed, and James succeeded to the throne in 1685. But it didn't take long before the disaffection with James' religious policies turned into open rebellion. The Duke of Monmouth, the previous king's illegitimate son, raised an army to depose King James II. Although this army was eventually defeated and Monmouth executed, distrust of the Catholic king lingered. On the 10th of June in 1688, Queen Mary gave birth to a son, whom James christened into the Catholic faith, which frustrated the English Protestants even more. They felt outraged by the prospect of an entrenched Catholic monarchy, and for that reason they invited the Dutch Prince William of Orange to invade. William landed in Devon at the south coast of England in November, after a few clashes he forced King James II to flee to France. William and his wife Mary, James' eldest daughter, were crowned early in the new year. William was a military leader. He plunged his new subjects into wars in alliance with his native land against most of all the French. The basis for the modern constitutional monarchy was established by him in an Act of Settlement, which is an Act of Parliament that was passed in 1701 to settle the succession to the English and Irish crowns on Protestants only. And for that reason it also prevented King James II from reclaiming his throne. Queen Anne introduced herself to Parliament in 1702. Anne launched England into an expensive and punishing war with France. But more than any previous monarch, Anne relied on her councillors to thread a careful line between the dominant political parties, the Whigs and the Tories. These parties clashed over the war as well as other issues such as religion and taxation. Besides warfare, Anne managed what her Stuart forebears could not. In 1707, she signed the Act of Union, combining the parliaments of both England and Scotland, and these separate nations are still part of the United Kingdom of Britain today. Thanks for your attention.